God, he was so easy to read. All it took was some intense eye contact, a few well-timed compliments, and he was practically eating out of my hand. Men like Tom are always so desperate for validation. Show them a little attention, make them feel special, and they'll bend over backwards to keep you happy.
Hey, it's Tom. Looking back now, I can see all the warning signs clear as day. But at the time, man, I was like a moth drawn to a flame, completely blind to what was really happening. Let me tell you how it all started with Vivian. I first met her at my friend Mike's barbecue. She walked up to me while I was manning the grill, and within minutes, she had me feeling like the most interesting person in the world. The way she looked at me, laughed at my terrible dad jokes, and seemed genuinely fascinated by my boring job in accounting. It was intoxicating. "You're different from other guys," she'd say, touching my arm. "You actually have substance." I ate it up like a starving man at a feast. Looking back, I should have recognized that as the first red flag, how quickly and intensely she latched onto me. About 3 weeks into dating, she started showing up at my workplace. The first time, I was genuinely touched. She brought me lunch and waited in the parking lot to surprise me. My colleague Sarah raised an eyebrow when she saw Vivian through the office window. "Isn't it a bit much?" Sarah asked carefully. "I mean, this is the third time this week she's shown up unannounced." I brushed off Sarah's concern with a laugh. "She's just really into me." How many guys complain their girlfriend cares too much? But it didn't stop there. Soon, Vivian was texting my coworkers to check if I was really working late. She'd coincidentally be at the coffee shop across from my office during my lunch break. Once she even followed me to a client meeting because she was worried I might be meeting someone else. Here's the really messed up part. I knew deep down that something wasn't right, but I convinced myself it was flattering. After years of dating apps, ghosting, and games, having someone who wanted me this badly felt safe, secure. Even though, if I'm being honest, I wasn't even that attracted to her physically. "You're settling," Mike told me bluntly over beers one night. "Just because she's obsessed with you doesn't mean she's right for you." I remember getting defensive. "You don't get it, man. Dating is exhausting. Vivian knows what she wants, and she wants me. Do you know how rare that is?" The truth was, I was tired. Tired of putting myself out there. Tired of rejection. Tired of the endless cycle of first dates that led nowhere. Vivian's intensity felt like a shortcut to intimacy. She had already decided we were perfect together, so I wouldn't have to go through the vulnerable process of really getting to know someone and risking them not liking what they found. My mom always said loneliness makes people do crazy things. She was right. Looking back now, I can see how my loneliness acted like a filter, turning red flags into welcome signs. Every possessive text, every surprise visit, every moment of controlling behavior got reframed in my mind as proof of her devotion. I told myself, this is what being madly in love looks like. But love shouldn't make you feel suffocated. Love shouldn't make your friends and family exchange worried glances behind your back. Love shouldn't make your coworkers start taking different routes to their cars to avoid awkward encounters with your girlfriend in the parking lot. But I ignored all of that. I was so caught up in the idea of being wanted, I forgot to ask myself if this was what I wanted. Sometimes the most dangerous traps are the ones we walk into willingly, eyes wide open, telling ourselves the cage is actually a shelter. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a story that would change everything I thought I knew about love, relationships, and myself.
Hey, Vivian here. Let me set the record straight about Tom. Everyone thinks I'm the villain in this story, but honestly, I saw potential where nobody else did. You know how some people can look at an old house and see what it could become with the right renovations? That was me with Tom. The first time I saw him at that barbecue, he was just there. Nothing special. Definitely not my usual type. But I noticed something interesting. The way he carried himself, like he was apologizing for taking up space. That's when I knew. Here was someone I could work with. A blank canvas, if you will. God, he was so easy to read. All it took was some intense eye contact, a few well-timed compliments, and he was practically eating out of my hand. Men like Tom are always so desperate for validation. Show them a little attention, make them feel special, and they'll bend over backwards to keep you happy. "You're playing with fire, Viv," my sister Rebecca warned me over brunch. "You can't build a relationship on manipulation." I remember rolling my eyes so hard they nearly got stuck. Please. I'm doing him a favor. You should have seen what he was wearing when I met him. Now he actually looks presentable in public. The key to keeping someone like Tom invested is knowing exactly when to pull back. It's like training a puppy. You can't give treats all the time, or they'll take you for granted. I developed a perfect system. Whenever he started getting too comfortable, I'd become distant. His texts would go unanswered for hours. I'd cancel plans last minute. The panic in his voice when he'd call, chef's kiss perfect. Then, just when he was about to give up hope, I'd swoop back in with full force. Surprise visits to his office, which he pretended to love, by the way. Passionate declarations of love, grand gestures. The emotional whiplash kept him constantly off balance. Exactly where I needed him. But didn't you worry about pushing him away, my therapist once asked. I had to laugh. As if Tom would ever leave. I'd made sure he was too emotionally dependent for that. The wedding planning really showed everyone's true colors. Rebecca, my own sister, had the nerve to suggest I was being bridezilla-ish. Can you believe that? All I did was demand she lose 10 pounds to fit into her maid of honor dress. The resulting screaming match at the bridal shower was totally her fault. You're being completely unreasonable, she shrieked, after I threw her champagne glass against the wall. Tom's family is right about you. That's when I slapped her. Hard. The look of shock on everyone's faces, priceless. Of course, later I blamed the whole thing on wedding stress and Tom's lack of support. He should have been helping more with the planning instead of working those ridiculous hours at his job. How was I supposed to create my perfect day when my fiancé couldn't even be bothered to choose between eggshell and ivory for the table linens? The best part? Tom actually apologized to me. I'm sorry I haven't been there enough for you, babe, he said, looking all puppy dog sad. I'll try to do better. That's what I mean about potential. Some people might see a pushover, but I saw someone I could mold into exactly what I needed. Sure, maybe my methods were a bit unconventional. But relationships are about growth, right? And I was helping Tom grow into the man I knew he could be. My mother always said I had a gift for getting my way. Vivian, she'd tell me, you could convince a fish to buy water. She meant it as a compliment, I think. And she was right, I do have a talent for persuasion. Is it my fault that people are so easily manipulated? That they're so willing to believe what they want to believe? The wedding planning chaos actually worked in my favor. Everyone was so focused on the drama that nobody noticed how I was gradually isolating Tom from his friends. A cancel guy's night here, a misunderstood text message there, and suddenly I was his whole world. Just as it should be. Looking back, I guess I could have been more subtle about certain things. The incident with his best friend Mark, for instance, maybe I didn't need to fake those screenshots of him trash-talking me. But hey, Mark was a bad influence anyway. Always filling Tom's head with doubts, trying to make him think for himself. Please. I had plans for Tom, and I didn't need some wannabe hero messing them up. You know what's funny? Everyone thinks they're the hero of their own story. But me? I'm more of a, let's say, a visionary. I saw what Tom could become under my guidance. If other people want to call that manipulation, fine. I call it investing in potential. Besides, relationships are all about power. Anyone who tells you different is either lying or losing. I just happen to be better at playing the game than most. And if Tom couldn't handle that, well, that's not my fault, is it? But I'm getting ahead of myself. The real fun didn't start until after the wedding. That's when I decided to really test how far I could push things. After all, what's the point of having power if you don't use it?
You know how they say your wedding day should be the happiest day of your life? Well, mine felt more like being a guest star in someone else's reality show. A really messed up reality show. The ceremony itself was beautiful. I'll give Vivian that. Every detail was perfect, from the hand-carved ice sculptures to the custom-written vows. But underneath all that perfection, things were off. Like watching a movie where the audio doesn't quite sync with the video. It started during the bachelor party fiasco. I wanted something low-key, maybe a weekend fishing trip with the guys. But Vivian had other ideas. Don't be such a prude, Tommy, she purred, using that voice that always made me feel like I was being unreasonable. Everyone has strippers at their bachelor party. I'm having them at mine. Don't you trust me? I remember standing in our kitchen, feeling my stomach twist. It's not about trust, Viv. I just don't want. Fine, she cut me off, tears suddenly appearing in her eyes. Be boring. Make me look like an idiot in front of my friends when they ask why my fiancé is such a killjoy. So I gave in, just like I always did. The night itself is mostly a blur, thank God. Though I do remember feeling sick watching some stranger gyrate on my lap while my remaining friends avoided eye contact. Mark would have stopped this madness, but he wasn't there. Hadn't been around much since that whole misunderstanding with Vivian. The wedding day itself was like watching Vivian perform on stage. She played the blushing bride perfectly until something went wrong. The flower girl tripped during the processional, and I saw Vivian's mask slip. The look she gave that poor kid. I still get chills thinking about it. During the reception, she disappeared for almost an hour. When she came back, her eyes were glassy and her words slightly slurred. Later, I found out she'd been doing shots with her bridesmaids in the bridal suite. My mom tried to cover for her during the father-daughter dance, telling guests Vivian was just overcome with emotion. She's just nervous, I kept telling myself. It's normal wedding day stress. But then came the honeymoon in Bali. That's when the cracks really started showing. First night there, Vivian threw a fit because our ocean view suite wasn't on a high enough floor. She reduced the hotel manager to tears, while I stood there feeling like I should apologize but knowing that would only make her angrier. You should have backed me up, she hissed later in the room. A good husband would have demanded a better room. The rest of the trip followed the same pattern. Perfect Instagram moments punctuated by private meltdowns. She'd pose for romantic sunset photos, then spend dinner texting her friends about how boring Bali was. She insisted on recreating poses she'd seen other couples post, making us retake shots dozens of times until they were perfect. One night, after she'd finally fallen asleep, I stood on our balcony and tried to figure out when exactly I'd lost control of my life. The moon was reflecting off the ocean, and for the first time, I allowed myself to imagine what it would be like to just leave. Walk out the door and keep walking. But I didn't. Instead, I did what I'd been doing for months, told myself things would get better. That marriage would calm her down, give her the security she obviously needed. That once we settled into routine, the drama would fade. Looking back now, I realized that moment on the balcony was my last chance to save myself from what was coming. But I was still too caught up in the sunk cost fallacy, too afraid of admitting I'd made a massive mistake. Besides, how could I leave? Everyone had told us what a perfect couple we were. All those smiling wedding photos on social media. The cards calling us meant to be. Walking away would mean admitting they were all wrong. That I was wrong. So I stayed, watched the sun rise over the ocean, crawled back into bed, and tried to ignore the knot in my stomach that warned me things were about to get much, much worse.
Let me tell you about the day I miscalculated. Not that I made a mistake. Mind you, I just moved too fast. Like a chess player revealing their strategy too early in the game. We'd been back from Bali for exactly 17 days. The honeymoon had been adequate, though watching Tom try to find himself by staring at the ocean every night was tediously dramatic. Still, I'd gotten some fantastic photos for Instagram, and my post about finding paradise with my soulmate got over 300 likes. I decided to bring up the open marriage idea over dinner. I'd planned it perfectly, his favorite meal, which I'd actually ordered from his favorite restaurant but pretended to cook, his preferred wine. Even wore that blue dress he liked. Setting the stage is crucial for any major manipulation. I mean conversation. "Honey," I said, swirling my wine glass thoughtfully, "have you noticed how many couples are exploring ethical non-monogamy these days?" The way his fork froze halfway to his mouth was priceless. "What do you mean?" "Well," I continued, keeping my voice casual, "marriage is such an outdated concept when you really think about it. Being tied to just one person forever. It's so limiting." The color drained from his face. It was actually kind of fascinating to watch. "Vivian, what are you saying?" "I'm saying we should consider an open marriage. It's very modern, very evolved. Sarah and Mike are doing it." This was a lie, of course. But Tom hadn't spoken to Mike in months thanks to my careful orchestration, so he couldn't verify. "But we just got married," he stammered. God, he could be so basic sometimes. "Exactly." I leaned forward, using my most reasonable tone. "We're young, we're hot. Well, I am, and we should experience everything life has to offer." Don't you want me to be happy? That's when he did something unexpected. He laughed. Not the nervous laugh I was used to manipulating, but a different kind. Hard. Hollow. Happy. He stood up so quickly his chair fell backward. Like you were happy when you alienated all my friends? Happy like when you slapped your sister at our bridal shower? Happy like when you made that flower girl cry at our wedding? Honestly, his outburst was so unattractive. You're being incredibly insecure right now, I said, shifting to my hurt but patient voice. This is why I worry about you, Tommy. You're so boring. So conventional. I'm trying to help you grow. Grow. His voice got louder. Ugh. Like you helped me grow by showing up at my workplace, by going through my phone, by making me cut off contact with Mark over those texts that let me guess you faked. See what I mean about moving too fast? I should have waited, laid more groundwork. Maybe started with subtle hints about other couples we knew having arrangements. Amateur mistake, really. If you're going to be hysterical about this, I said, standing up and straightening my dress, we can discuss it when you're being more rational. I simply suggested something that many modern couples. That's when he completely lost it. Get out. Excuse me. Get out. He was shaking. It was actually quite entertaining. I want you out of this house. Now. I'll be calling a lawyer in the morning. Don't be ridiculous, Tommy. Where would I go? I don't care. Call one of the guys you're obviously already sleeping with. Now that was just unfair. I hadn't slept with anyone else yet. I was trying to do this the right way, get permission first. That's what really gets me about the whole situation. I was trying to be ethical about it. Fine, I said, grabbing my already packed emergency bag. A girl always needs to be prepared. But you'll regret this. Nobody will ever love you like I do. That's what I'm counting on, he replied, and actually held the door open for me to leave. The audacity. Looking back, I realized my mistake. I should have been more patient, played the devoted wife for at least a few years, built up more leverage. Then, once I had him completely dependent on me, I could have just cheated discreetly like a normal person. Keep up appearances, you know? But the real tragedy, all that potential, wasted. I'd put so much work into molding Tom into the perfect husband. The clothes, the hair, the carefully cultivated insecurities, all that investment, down the drain because he couldn't handle one little suggestion about opening up our marriage. Some people just don't appreciate the effort you put into improving them. They're so caught up in ridiculous concepts like authenticity and trust that they can't see the bigger picture. I was trying to create something special, something Instagram-worthy. But I guess Tom just wasn't ready for my vision of modern love. His loss, really. Though I have to admit, watching him grow a spine was almost impressive. Almost. If only he'd done it in a way that benefited me.